Things just took a very ugly turn for the Toronto Maple Leafs as a shocking new report has dropped revealing something that is not only pretty ridiculous, but that you rarely see. We're going to break down exactly what this is and discuss how things are getting ugly, as well as a bunch of updates ahead of tomorrow night's big game. But before we get into it all, ladies and gentlemen, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Darius, this is going to be an interesting one, and we haven't had a video similar to this on the channel before, so it's going to be it's some interesting news to go over, and of course, a ton of updates. Let's dive right into it. It is surrounding David Kampf. So the Leafs are preparing to suspend David Kampf without pay because he decided to leave their AHL team, and therefore the Leafs are not currently incurring the $1.5 or a bit less than $1.5 million buried cap charge for him while he is in the minors. The expectation is that this will be resolved soon. Either he reports back, mutually terminates, or is traded. Now, this isn't to say that teams haven't suspended players before, but particularly for the Leafs, at least Darius, maybe you have an idea of when. It's been a while since a player specifically like David Kampf decided to not report to the AHL team and actually get suspended for it. We saw Ryan Reeves last year, I believe, a little bit, not get suspended for it, but, be a little bit
Yeah.
upset with that. But this is the first time in a while that someone is, and the Leafs are preparing to suspend and ultimately did suspend a guy who still has a lot of money left on his deal.
Yeah, if it has happened, I don't personally remember the last time that it happened, at least for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And listen, if you don't go to work, you don't get paid, right? So it's coming to that point. Obviously, circumstances are a little bit different for NHL players with the CBA and all that and the Players Association. But I think this is coming to a head this weekend. I think we're going to find out what happens here this weekend. And ultimately, guys, it's going to end in a contract termination. He's going to terminate his contract. There's a clear reason why he stepped away from the team. He's mad. He thinks he can play in the NHL, right? And I think that he can too. But the contract that he signed, listen, I would have signed it too, but that's tough, right? You can't give fourth liners, and we'll get to a tweet in a second. You can't give fourth liners like 4-year deals at almost $3 million. It doesn't make sense, right? And I understand they knew the cap was going up, but it doesn't make sense, especially with where the team is at now. It was a numbers game. He's sent down. I wish him the best, but I think that it's headed at this point for a contract termination. He's going to try and sign somewhere else, and he's probably going to make a little bit less, but that's what it is at this point. I think he wants to play at the NHL level, but at the end of the day, he walked out on the team, right? At the same time, he said, I need to, figure out what I want to do. He did not join them on the road trip that they just left for. So he's not playing. He's at home right now, and I think this is going to come to a head at some point here in the next couple of days, probably over the weekend, because at this point it looks like they're going to suspend him without pay, and obviously that has huge salary cap implications too. And they're trying to get out from under the money anyway to move forward with either making a move or bringing somebody in. So making a move to trade somebody away, I should say. So I think it's this weekend. I think we're going to get some clarity on this, and I'm sure Friedman's going to have something tomorrow night on it as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Speaking of Friedman, he gave his insight on what he knows now. He said, I don't know exactly what was said or how it was communicated, but Kampf did leave the players with the Marlies with the impression that he was going to terminate his contract. He's not out of the Leafs lineup because he's not good enough. It's because they can't fit his salary and roster spot in right now. We'll see how this plays out over the next few days. I certainly understand his frustration. I think he made it clear that status quo just wasn't good enough for him. And yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate, I guess, scenario here, but they have way too many forwards and ones that I think are better at this point than David Kampf. Cowan produced more than David Kampf, I think, would have. You obviously have Calle Yarncroke who started the season hot. Now Scott Laughton's back. Stephen Lorentz is back. You have an abundance of them. And Friedman also went on to explain that other agents believe that this situation getting out publicly might actually help Kampf gauge his market. So if he does terminate his deal, he can, of course, go elsewhere as a free agent. So ultimately, I think, like you mentioned, it's going to be a termination, which will be best for both sides. But pretty ugly situation here. You never want to get to this point, I don't think, where, the player and the management are this far apart on whatever the, issue is. At the same juncture, he is a fourth liner and he's making too much money. It's nothing the Leafs could have done. I'm happy the Leafs handled it. I'm hopefully the best that they could have, but at the end of the day here, they need to put out a team that has the best chance to win hockey games, and that's the case that they are, in right now. And also, like you mentioned, salary is just ludicrous and a little bit wild. So any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, they can't afford the 2.4 at the NHL level, right? So they sent him down. They're trying to get, you bury some of that when he's down there in the AHL, but they're trying to get out from under all of that at this point, right? When you look at the guys on the team, I think Scott Laughton offers you more, right? He's more chatty on the ice. He's barking at the other bench. He can score. He plays well on the defensive side of the puck. He can play on the PK. Same goes. All of the same things go for Stephen Lorentz, right? Like they have other bodies that are making less money in the lineup that are offering more. So it's a numbers game at this point. So again, wish him all the best. It looks like he's probably going to end up leaving the organization. I could be wrong. Maybe he decides to stay with the Marlies, but considering what the Leafs want here, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to take his chances and try to go play somewhere else in the NHL.
Another year on his deal at 2.4 million. So it's going to be interesting. They obviously just give Steven Lawrence a 3-year deal at a much cheaper rate than Kampf was. So I mean, pretty obvious as to why he didn't make it. But let's dive into some of the other updates from this afternoon's practice. So Simone Benoit is taking part in Leafs practice after missing Wednesday's game due to illness. That's obviously a good sign. The Leafs need to string together some more wins here. They're playing really, really good hockey as of late. And the one thing that hasn't been good and has been a bit of a problem here is their power play units. Now you can see here OEL, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and Nyes. So Riley on a bit of a different one here. Do you have any thoughts on, before we dive into some more of these updates here, we'll dive into lines, the way the power play has looked? And that's the only thing stopping this team at this point from being, I think, one of the best teams in the league. Like, they're great. Some of the best. They have the best players at 5-on-5 goal scoring. Their defense has looked serviceable. Their goaltending's finally starting to get back to where it needs to be, with Joseph Woll returning and Stolarz being as good as he has been over the past few games. The power play, though, has been atrocious. I think they're starting to juggle things a little bit here as well.
I'm glad you bring that up, actually, because I think they have 2 games coming up here against the Bruins that are actually really good matchups for this team because of their 5-on-5 play. And I'll get to that in a second, why I think the Leafs are going to win. But in terms of the power play, zone entries look a little lackadaisical, a little sloppy. They got to clean that up, and just killer instinct, right? Like, get after it here. Just because you have space and time, like, yes, of course you want to use it, but let's get some pucks to the net, right? And they've looked okay, but their power play is, bottom 5 in the league right now. They have to get that going. I would like it in at least, let's start baby steps, top 15 with the caliber of player that you have, of course. But like you brought up, they have some of the best, when you're looking elsewhere besides specialty teams, they have the best 5-on-5 goal scoring right now. They have 3 of the top 3 guys in the entire league on the team 5-on-5 scoring. The Bruins are a horrific 5-on-5 team. So that works in the advantage of the Leafs, who've been a very good 5-on-5 team this year, which is actually really good if you look forward into the future, into the playoffs. Of course, you want to capitalize on these power plays, but if you're winning majority of the battles and the game's 5-on-5, that's good news so far this season. So I actually like this matchup heading into tomorrow. That'll be a lot of fun. And speaking of 5-on-5 play, Nick Robertson and John Tavares together have been a pairing that has worked. So I imagine they're keeping them together. It worked last game, at the end of the game before that. So they're going to keep them together. And Robertson, credit where credit's due. I've always liked him, but of course, like if he's just going to be tailing around as like a healthy scratch or on the 3rd line, 4th line, stuff like that, I've always said, he's probably better off somewhere else and maybe get something for him in terms of how the team is structured. But right now he's getting the opportunity that I think he's deserved for a while. He's one of the best point producers for the minutes that he's played over the last couple of years. So he's getting his flowers right now. He's playing great. And Tavares, too, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah, you can look at the stats here. Absolutely dominant stuff. And if you can keep that up, it's part of the reason this team is playing so well. And yeah, the lines at the practice, you can see here, Nyes, Matthews, Nylander, they're keeping them the same. So for the first time in a while, we'll start to see some steady lines, some steady flow, and they go in and out based on that. But that'll wrap it up. Also, Joseph Woll spoke out for the first time since his, about his disappearance, basically, in his absence, rather. He basically just said that he doesn't want to dive into details, but he's happy he's back and that he was gutted that he couldn't be with the team. So happy he's back. Glad everything's good with him. And this team now fully healthy, basically. Of course, Chris Tanev, a couple other guys, but basically fully healthy, ready to go and make a push for the Atlantic Division. We'll see you guys later.